The IFRC has repeatedly warned that extreme weather events are pushing more people into crisis. So, how does the IFRC help strengthen global collaboration and drive more effective climate governance from a humanitarian perspective?
Thank you. And you said it, indeed, it is a crisis. And that is the most important thing for the IFRC. The climate crisis is already a humanitarian crisis. Extreme events such as droughts, floods, typhoons, heat waves are becoming more intense. This has a direct impact on livelihoods, food, water security, human displacement, loss of life. And so therefore, we as a network, we represent 191 national societies in almost all countries of the world. And most critically, our over 200,000 branches, we're focused on supporting communities to be more resilient to these climate-related extremes. And for us, it's really important that we identify solutions that are community-led and based on community needs. And this directly links to some of the components you were referring to in climate governance, national policy, national planning, national legislation that has to be in place and support communities to be able to take the climate action they need to be able to adapt to these impacts. So for example, having government systems that allow early warnings to alert populations before flooding happens, and so communities can get off harm's way. Or, as we were discussing, climate finance, it needs to be there so that it reaches the local level and the communities that are most impacted. And we're also seeing more and more development and humanitarian work aligned. That's really important for us because while we are a humanitarian actor, we're also not only responding to short-term crises, but these crises are happening the whole time. So we also need to be there in the long term to support communities be more resilient to these climate extremes.
Brazil, as host of the climate conference, is leading voice in the global south. So, how have global south countries shaped the climate agenda and advanced more inclusive climate action? Your take?
The global south is where most countries are most severely impacted by the climate crisis, where we have the biggest humanitarian crisis caused by climate. That's where they're located. And therefore, that any action that happens around climate needs to be led by these countries in the global south and decided by countries in the global south. They need to be at the deciding seat of what happens and what are the actions they want to take. And inclusive climate action is really at the heart of what we do as IFRC. We really believe that communities, countries need to lead their own way. We also see a lot that the impacts of climate change vary a lot from one country to another, from one part of a country, from one community to another, from a sector to another. That's why it's so critical that communities and countries lead on the solutions that are most relevant for them, whether we're talking about food and water security, climate resilient health systems, infrastructure, or housing. And that's where we want to be focused in our work and enabling Global South to strengthen the climate action and for that action to be country-led and locally led.